Now, a group has faulted what it calls the lack of female representation in the governing board of the Northwest Development Commission, that's NWDC. On September 28th, President Bola Tinubu appointed a governing board for the NWDC and forwarded the names to the Senate for confirmation. In a statement on Thursday, the women group said the announcement should have been a historic step towards regional development, but instead it feels like a disheartening slap in the face of Northern women. For a conversation on this development, we're now being joined by a journalist and media entrepreneur, Kadaria Ahmed. She will be speaking on the marginalization of women in the appointment of the Northwest Development Commission Board, why it is so, and how to ensure compliance with the affirmative action in the North. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here on this day.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Yes. And of course, we heard the what was said by the NWDC board, drawing criticism from its gender imbalance. From your perspective, what specific factors contributed to women being marginalized in these appointments?
I mean, it's either President Ahmed Tinubu and his government don't rate Northwestern women at all, or they don't have knowledge around essentially why women participation is critical, or they know all these things, but, political expediency means that they're willing to sacrifice development itself, on the altar of party politics. That's the only conclusion we can reach, because the research is absolutely clear. If you want development, particularly in an area which is rife with conflict, such as the Northwest, where we have terrorist bandits running rampage and generally making life insecure, and where women and children are the predominant victims of these crimes, then you have to have women sit at the table when decisions are being taken about the things that affect their lives. Not only that, research has also actually shown that when you put women in this kind of policy-making positions, you increase the effectiveness and accountability in public service, okay? So more recently, there's more research that actually shows you get up to 35% more chances of success if women are part of peace and conflict resolution. On that basis alone, women deserve to be part of the Northwest Development Commission. But even outside all these things, there's something called fairness. We are 50% of the population, right? We go out, we vote, we participate. Every time we're called upon to participate, we do. And yet when it comes to sort of saying to us, okay, come and have a bit of a voice, sit at the table while we decide what happens to your life, we get this sort of lopsided appointments. It's extremely disappointing.
And it's as though the president isn't keeping his promise. There is that 35% affirmative action that women were very excited about. We thought it was going to be an opportunity to turn the page on what has been predominantly male-governed politics, but it seems like he's not serious about keeping his promises.
As far as women in the Northwest are concerned, and parts of the North, yes, absolutely, because you can talk all you like, but you have to walk your talk. If you keep making promises, and yet time and time again, when the opportunity presents itself, you actually don't keep to your promises, then we have to start asking questions. But it's not even just the fact that women, are sort of not represented. It is also that for some reason, even the makeup of the people who are actually on the board leaves a lot to be desired. What do I mean? In the Northwest at the moment, we are facing what is essentially an existential crisis. I myself am from Zamfara. To get into Zamfara, if you see the things I have to do to be sure that I get there safely and come back, because the place has been overrun by terrorist bandits, like I was saying. And so when you have a situation, a country like that, where the indices, and I brought my phone simply because I thought it was important to sort of reel out those numbers, because we think there's actually a direct correlation between how badly we're doing and the fact that the Northwest continues to marginalize women, because we've seen places where women are included begin to do better. So I'll give you some of the numbers around what is going on in the Northwest, because I think it's important. Bear with me a minute. Let me just look at... Okay, so multidimensional poverty ratings in the 7 states that make up the Northwest range from 72% to 90%.
It's astounding.
Now, it's outstanding that we actually still have a region, right? 4 of the 7 states have more children out of school than they do in school, right? Now, the vast majority of these states have less than 20% of girl-child literacy rates. Okay? Citizens with insufficient food consumption in these states hover between 72 and 80%. And when you see that those numbers, they are not numbers, these are lives. These are people. These are children that we see. You've seen all the pictures of the kids roaming the streets without going to school. You've seen pictures of people that are beginning to look malnourished. You've seen pictures of people who've been attacked, kidnapped, etc., etc. There is a direct correlation between the failure to allow women to fully participate in public life, whether it is through appointments, whether it is through elections, whether it is education, etc., and the fact that the region is lagging behind. And we don't understand why policymakers, who after all say this particular body was set up or is set up to look at development, how can you do development when the people who are directly impacted are not part of the decision making? And even when you look at the people who are actually part of the board, I am going to be so bold as to say, if I'm being generous, maybe 3 of them qualify to sit on that board. When you are overseeing a region that has the sort of problems that we have, there are certain skills and experiences that are necessary. You need people who understand budgeting. You need people who understand the economy. You need people who understand climate and how to mitigate it. You need people who understand conflict and conflict resolution. You need people who are experts in public health, etc., etc. Go check out the CV of the people who were appointed. They are not qualified. And this is side by side with actually having women who are very qualified that could actually do this job, and who actually, when you look at NGOs that are working on the ground, that are actually making the little differences that you see, most of the time it is women who are doing this work.
We do have about 4 minutes thereabout with you, but I'd just like to touch on the cultural aspect of this. We often hear cultural and religious justifications for excluding women from leadership positions in the North. And as someone who is very familiar with the region, as you've alluded to, and we are all aware of, how do you respond to those arguments?
Well, is President Tinubu from the North? I mean, seriously, is he? If he's not going to accept those standards for the southeast of Nigeria, for the southwest, why is he accepting that standard for the people of the North? And that is the reason why I said, unless what we are doing is putting political considerations over and above public good, then you can understand the decision making. But if the intention genuinely is to get the Northwest back on its feet, using this commission, as a platform, then they need to go back to the drawing table, because they are not doing the right thing when it comes to putting the right people in the right jobs. I don't know why the North continues to have its worst put forward. I really don't. And it's not just in the Northwest Development Commission. There's so many appointments that have been made, and we're looking and thinking, there's a reason why the whole of Nigeria says we are Oloduns. Because when it comes to this kind of appointments, they look for the worst among us, and they give them the jobs. And we know there are people who have the capacity, who have the experience, and who have the integrity to do these jobs. Why do they never get put into those positions?
Well, Kadaria, that's the issue with the entire country. Unfortunately, it seems this cactus.
Ours seems to be worse than every other place, Hawa.
But how do we even move forward? We have these educated women that have presented themselves, that we have groups that are complaining.
And even young women. I'm not even talking about the older women. There's a lot of young girls now who are experts on climate, on mitigation, on conflict, who are economists, who are public health doctors, who we see doing really amazing stuff. Why are they not being put forward? Because often when people like us talk, right? The argument is, maybe you're looking for an appointment. No, we're not. I'm not interested in government. I don't have the temperament for government. I will never be in government.
Hey,
if I wanted to be
that.
in government, I would have been a long time ago. No, but it's important because people think when you come and talk about these things, you are maybe angling for an appointment. So it's important to clarify that we're not pitching the tent of put women in because we want to be part of that. There are things we're doing that we think are important and need to be done outside government. But there are a lot of capable women, young women, middle-aged women who actually have a track record of making differences within their community that can be engaged for this work.
We have about 30 seconds, but I'd just like to know what are your next steps. So of course, you've elaborated what the issues
President
are.
Tinubu, let me address him directly. Elections are coming in 2027. We will be asking questions as Northwestern women about what you did for us in these last 4 years and whether you were able to turn our lives around for the better. We are going to start organizing, and we are going to only reward people who will look after us or who have looked after us in government. It's really that simple. We have to start making our numbers count for something.
And in the parlance of the youth, you just dropped the mic. Interview is over. Thank you so much for your strong words and for coming in this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Kadaria Ahmed, very
you.
well-known journalist and media entrepreneur.
Thank you.